Major WWE COVID-19 challenges affecting live events in New York City and Tampa, and maybe even affecting tonight's Monday Night Raw. We'll have the latest on this story. How does this also affect Roman Reigns? What is his future? Who could be his potential WrestleMania opponent? He's the biggest wrestling star in the business. Who's big enough to take him on at the biggest show of the year? Plus, Shawn Michaels, how is he handling everything at the top of the heap for WWE NXT? We'll get into all that and the latest on this developing COVID-19 situation with WWE.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Oh, what's going on? Jeremy Bennett in Nebraska, if he asks you. How you doing? I am Kev Kellum. What do you think of this situation here? It is getting crazier and crazier by the hour as we see this situation. If you're joining us live for the first time, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and join them in the comments. You know, all the jitter jatter. We're going to get pretty serious here, okay? Because this is a serious topic here today. So a lot of different things I reported on last night when I went live here with you are kind of developing even further. And this is a COVID-19 situation with WWE. And here's the thing. Before we blast them and say, I want to pile on WWE. I'm here to pile on and say they're an awful company. No, this is not the case here. There are some things that are odd, right? But let's talk about it here. WWE's been hit with a reported COVID-19 situation that has affected them not just in talent, but in your production staff, in your crew, in WWE NXT. Omicron is now the leading variant in the United States, so this isn't a shocker. I'm not going to surprise anyone, no matter where you are in the United States. You know someone who has COVID-19 and may have never had it before, or had it before and has it again. This isn't uncommon. You're going to see it on your timeline. I'm not doing anything to scare you. So this is going to affect WWE when they're on the road, on planes, in rental cars, in hotels, and in front of crowds. So that's there. We're not going to get into the COVID stuff and your conspiracy. Go elsewhere. You can go down your little rabbit holes and scratch each other's back with lies as much as you want. This isn't that show. We're talking about wrestling here. So WWE affected by this. You had Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Becky Lynch, Big E, and Bianca Belair pulled from live events on the WWE Holiday Tour, which in New York City was affected by Omicron. It was right as they were reporting huge numbers. Ticket sales didn't move too well, and they didn't move too well the week going into Christmas, and maybe Omicron was a part of that. You know what I mean? It was worth noting maybe Omicron was a part of that here. It's different to go to a football game, open air stadium. All right, I'll buy some tickets for that, right? You know, we kind of know how to do I want to go masked indoors in an arena right now? Is this going to affect wrestling in general in the next few weeks? Some areas of the country it won't. In New York, they seem pretty aware of what COVID is, and they've dealt with a bad form of it before. So different story there. Now, Seth Rollins tweeting out, he was scheduled for the main event on that show. Edge replaced him, taking on Kevin Owens in a cage match, which I understand was a great match. Seth Rollins, scheduled for that, tweeted out, I'm having a Merry COVID Christmas. I love football. Now, that's no confirmation from him that he's dealing with COVID, but obviously if his household is exposed, there's some protocol. We don't know WWE's COVID protocols here either. Then you also have Big E and Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. Obviously, Becky Lynch, same household as Seth Rollins, pulled off these shows. Mm-hmm. Then we have word from Dave Meltzer saying that not all the talent that was pulled off of these shows tested positive. We don't know who's tested positive. So we don't know who has been tested positive. They've been pulled off these shows, maybe as a safety precaution, to give them enough time to clear this thing so that they can perform this Saturday at the WWE Day 1 pay-per-view. There are so many moving pieces. I've been talking for 4 minutes. Jeremy, what's the latest right now?
Yeah, and basically now the CDC also came out and talked about cutting isolation time for those that test positive. And the NBA is cutting their times down as well if they've been vaccinated. So as long as these guys have been vaccinated and test negative later in the week, I'm assuming they'll probably be good for day one. It's going to be very interesting to see how Raw plays out tonight. You had Bianca Belair, Big E, Bobby Lashley, Zelina Vega, Seth Rollins, and Becky Lynch all pulled. Also, Roman Reigns, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Xavier Woods were pulled at a Tampa show. So there are a lot of things that happened this weekend. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens coming into Raw. right now, the latest in regards to tonight is that according to PW Insider, the show must go on. Several wrestlers and staff have tested positive and or have been in contact with someone that has tested positive. The report, PW Insider Mike Johnson reports that there are rewrites to tonight's show. Usually there are about a dozen producers on Raw tonight. There's going to be about half that number. So it looks like a lot of producers have been
It's a lot of extra work for some people there.
Which could be a good thing. Sometimes there may be too many cooks in the kitchen, so it may be a good thing. We don't know any other specifics as of now. What is going to go down on Raw? We're basically going to learn it probably as it plays out once Raw starts here in about a little under an hour and a half. Now, Fightful Selected report that WWE has informed the talent that that COVID testing is no longer going to be required. So in the wake of all this storyline interestingly comes out saying that several that after several top stars have been sidelined, WWE is taking measures the opposite way with an NXT as well. Performance Center talent were informed that they are no longer requiring the twice weekly COVID testing that used to be mandatory. And also the main roster got an email today saying that weekly testing is not going to be required any longer. No word.
That doesn't mean they're not going to test.
Yeah, I guess it's just not mandatory. I don't know. Yeah. It's in kind of weird timing considering all the people that had to get pulled this weekend from probably the biggest house show that they put on in the year in Madison.
I wonder if that was something they planned before all this. I
don't know.
And then they just didn't.
Yeah, maybe.
That was like an auto-scheduled email to go out on a certain day. All right, let's auto-schedule this. This is the way this thing's going. That was like 2 weeks ago when everyone thought Christmas was going to be Christmas again.
And then they forgot to pull the email. I don't know. It's interesting to know.
I hope that's not the case. I hope they're still testing in some form or another.
Yeah.
It's worth noting. Sometimes we only hear about the stuff that's going to be more salacious and more out there and grab more people's eyes. But that's not good. That doesn't make me feel positive. It felt like a really positive story when WWE took on testing. It was a really positive thing when AEW did it, when Ring of Honor went through the stringent things they did just to tape content in front of no fans, let alone in front of fans, and put these people on the road and get them in planes and rental cars and hotels and all that different stuff.
Well, I'll be and I'm going to keep an eye on things here as we are on the air to see if anything breaks in regards to Monday Night Raw tonight. But as of now, nothing has been formally announced outside of the fact that there's a lot of rewrites and half the producers that they normally have. We don't know who's going to be on the show yet. I'm sure WWE is probably keeping that close to the vest ahead of day one. They probably want to make sure everybody is good to go. I
do have a slight update coming in right now. PWI Insider, they seem to have the real insight on this.
Yeah.
They're confirming that the Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which was scheduled to host a big special live event this week with Trish Stratus as a special guest host on Wednesday, that event is not happening. That is not going to happen on this Wednesday. That'll be postponed to March 27th, 2022. That'll be the weekend before WrestleMania, actually there.
Yeah.
So hopefully things are better by then. This was kind of lining up. This was just a matter of when, because they had cancels from shows in Quebec as well, north of the border. And that's a little bit harder as there's different COVID regulations there. The NHL has canceled or at least postponed all cross-border games between American hockey teams and Canadian hockey teams. And you have Canadian players and American players. So it's a very challenging situation right there. And this gets more and more challenging for WWE as this goes on, and you see it happen with NBA, NHL, NFL. But the NFL kept playing. They're still putting this in front of fans. I think WWE is going to keep doing the same thing. I think All Elite Wrestling is going to try and keep doing the same thing. Vaccines are there. Can you deal with it and be okay? Is this strain as bad as it can be for some people? Who knows? I think a lot of people are going to go out there and take the risk. I'm not saying that's something I'm endorsing or it's safe, but, you're seeing concerts left and right getting canceled. iHeartRadio, major media company in the United States, they have their Jingle Bash tour. There's their big pop music tour they do throughout all of their radio stations and all the different markets they have. and they canceled the last 2 dates of that tour, which included Miami, Florida. So this, just to put it into perspective, this isn't just an isolated wrestling thing. You know, you guys are smart. You live outside of the bubble. You know what's going on here. Nick Batson saying money, money, money. Everybody's got a price. That's true. You know, but this is a question we've been getting this past week here with Omicron and all these different things saying here. Do you think, Michael asking, do you think they will go back to the WWE Thunderdome again? There's been no inclination from WWE that is the case. Some events have been canceled. Some events have been postponed. But I just don't see that happening right now. Things could change, you know, but I just don't see that happening. You have a dome show set up for St. Louis. Maybe they go into the Performance Center for a few weeks just to kind of keep everyone like in an isolated space.
Yeah, it depends on if this gets worse.
I mean, there's hypothetical things. There's hypothetical things we can do here. You know?
Yeah, because I mean, if it's hitting the NFL kind of hard too, you know, a lot of people are out, and NBA is getting hit as well. So it'll be interesting if they do kind of shut things down for a small amount of time. But I don't think the Thunderdome's going to be coming back. I mean, it'd have to get really bad for the Thunderdome to get back, and I think with the fact that we've got 3 rounds of vaccinations now, you know, and I don't know what percent of Americans are vaccinated right now, but, you know, a good majority of them are vaccinated, most likely. And so I don't think we're going to go to the Thunderdome answer to this, but you don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next month or so.
It'll certainly be interesting indeed here. And I wonder how this affects things in January. You know, there's hope that this isn't an issue in March or April, you know, and that more people can get vaccinated and won't be as problem, or the vaccines they have now become more effective by then as well. See what fans are saying here as they kind of chime in here. A lot of people saying a lot of flights canceled. Yes, a lot of flights canceled. I wonder if that affects this as well. You had a ton of flights, 150 flights just for one airline were canceled this weekend. And also, how does all those things affect WWE? How do they get people traveling out to these shows? Were people affected by that? Did you have talent that were affected by those flights cancellations? We don't know. There's a lot we don't know about this situation here too. So there's a lot that's left up in the air because WWE, as much as they are a publicly traded company, they don't have to be public about people's health. They don't have to they don't have to tell you those things. They're not obligated to do that.
Yeah, some of that could have been just travel related.
Yeah,
you never know.
It'd be interesting. And then would you blame WWE if they said, "Hey, Roman Reigns, you're off this one. We're not going to take a risk. We're going to try and get you to the next big show that we can. Let's take a calculated risk." Instead of a live event show in front of a few thousand fans, we're going to have a packed Atlanta stadium or arena and do it on pay-per-view and do it on Peacock.
Yeah, because you got day one coming up on Saturday. So
certainly, someone had a question here I wanted to say here. Someone asked, are we doing day one predictions? Yes, Wednesday we're going to have our day one preview show with SP3 and the great Kenny Bolin. Kenny Bolin, manager of the Wrestling Stars, will join us, and we will be live Saturday night after that show as well. Let's move on to story number 2. This one is actually from sportskeeda.com. What is the latest? Bill Apter, the man who knows the wrestling world, had a very provocative take here on what is coming up here with wrestling season and the WrestleMania season, and the biggest name in wrestling right now, Roman Reigns. Yeah,
legendary journalist Bill Apter joined Smack Talk on Friday after SmackDown and Rampage had aired. Oh, actually, Rampage didn't air on Friday, so they actually went early, I believe, this week, and talked about possibilities for Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Of course, now you've got Brock Lesnar at day one. And a lot of people think that Roman is going to come out on top at that. A lot of people predicting Heyman is going to screw Lesnar somehow to get back into the good graces of Roman Reigns. And so then that leaves, what does that leave Roman Reigns for when it comes to WrestleMania? And Apter believes that a proper feud would be with Seth Rollins, the history that they've had with the Shield. They've never really pulled that trigger like they teased when they were both on SmackDown as heels. They never really pulled that trigger of having them in a feud over the past when they were on SmackDown a year ago. So it is possible.
They've done it before. They've done these two one-on-one on paper.
They did before. After the Shield broke up, yes. Yeah. But in this, obviously lots has changed between these two guys since the Shield, and they both established each other as top guys. in a different sense than when they were with the Shield. Obviously, Roman Reigns was the powerhouse of the Shield and continued to be so. He's a completely different person now. Seth Rollins was that corporate turncoat, and he's a completely different person now. So it is actually almost kind of a new type of feud. And I think it is an interesting one if Seth Rollins were to win the Royal Rumble and challenge Roman Reigns. I think it would be good television leading up to WrestleMania, in my opinion, because Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns have both been at the top of their games inside and out of the ring over the past year, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Bill Apter will be joining us on tomorrow's edition of Sportskeeda, which is really, really great. If you haven't been checking out Bill Apter doing some great content for us on sportskeeda.com and appearing on various different podcasts for us as well. I did one last week with our post SmackDown show with Dutch Mantel. What a great meeting of the minds there. Also, him meeting up with Vince Russo. Bill Apter's seen it all. He is one of the best journalists to follow wrestling. So great to be able to work with him and do different stuff with him as well. Let's close it out here with story number 3. This one about the future of WWE NXT, and specifically the person who's at the helm of it, WWE Hall of Famer, Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels recently spoke with our good friend Denise Salcedo on Instant Culture and talked about transitioning over to NXT 2.0, and basically, talks about how Shawn talks about how he's dealt with the challenges and everything in regards to the shift. He says the biggest challenge was dealing with the fan reaction. He said, it's dealing with the reaction of that change. To be perfectly honest, it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. It was very sudden to your fan base, and that's very tough. It's like anything, change isn't easy. When it's your normal and you're comfortable with it, and then there's an abrupt change, that's difficult. For me, that was the hardest part, to at least let your fan base know we're going to do everything we can to make this your NXT again. It's just that we're going to have to do it all over and do it differently.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I think a lot of the blowback is because people are angry sometimes, and there's not much they can do about it. It's an emotional type of business, and we have that sincerity from our fan base. There is a closeness there when you get comfortable about the way things are, and then going to change that you're not prepared for. And I think they took it out. They didn't mean to, but they took it out on the brand, and of course they took it out on the young and new talent. And so basically just saying that it's a change, and I think you've said it a lot yourself, that it's it's the beginning. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
As to what they're establishing and what's going to work and what's not. It's not going to be the NXT that we loved, a few years ago.
And it was something else when NXT moved from Wednesdays, and it wasn't the brand that was going to go head to head with AEW, right? Mm-hmm. And once you kind of take that weight off its shoulder, it gets to be what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the show that makes big stars. It's supposed to be televised developmental wrestling, and everyone says that that's such a bad thing to be, and it isn't. There's just such this built-in opposition to I'll follow what's going on in Raw. I won't watch it, but I'll read the results, right? Because you apparently don't care enough that you won't follow it, right? But you follow it, so you can still judge it online, right?
And Shawn said himself, we're 10 to 12 weeks in now, and you're starting to see a lot of people get embraced. Tony D'Angelo, for example, Braun Breaker,
Grayson Waller's
doing a tremendous job as a heel.
Braun Breaker, this guy's wrestled less than 100 matches, and he could be the next NXT champion, and believably could be the next NXT champion.
Yeah,
like this isn't something that's being forced on you. You might buy into this idea.
A lot of people thought he was going to take it from Ciampa the first time, and was not going to be surprised if he did. Now I wonder, is he going to get called up? Is he going to be in the Royal Rumble? If he loses to Ciampa, I think his NXT days are very, very numbered if he loses to Ciampa at New Year's Evil.
I don't know if he can take 2 losses in a row and stay around on NXT, and
no, that's going to tell you that I think the wheels are in motion, that you're going to see him at the Royal Rumble and in either Raw or SmackDown in the very near future.
It'll be interesting to see how it is here. Stephen Chambers is always with us saying NXT is in rebuilding mode. Okay, I can see that. Give it some time. I'm sure the show will get back to better, knock on wood. Here's the thing. I'll say this. I think it already has. I'm not saying I'm rushing to that conclusion. They could do some stuff that stinks the bed. And maybe I'm just the jerk who only focuses on the things he likes, right? Like I spend more time just saying, like, I like this, and I forgot the stuff I don't. I think the show is compelling. I feel fun watching it on Wednesdays when I get home from comedy stuff or get home from other things and watch it. There has been times when I feel I had to watch that Johnny Gargano sign off. That had to be a show I needed to watch live, right?
Yeah.
So is it a show you need to watch live? That's a different story. But it is a show that's a part of my weekly regimen of wrestling. Yeah, it's not a show I want to skip.
I'll tell you what though, like my podcast co-host Matt Black on for Lost in the Mid Card, he hated Joe Gacy at the beginning, just didn't like the gimmick at all. I'm like, dude, this is a good gimmick. Just give it time. I think it's gonna. I see something in this because I saw it right away. I mean, I saw like a Bray Wyatt, Waylon Mercy type of controlling character out of this. I did think he used a little, kind of went on the buzzwords a little too heavy, and actually I think they've kind of toned that down a little bit because I think they were really pushing those too much. But now people are really starting to see Joe Gacy after kind of initially shunning it. I think they're really embracing him. Everybody loved Tony at the beginning. So Tony D'Angelo, Tony's mate. He's a mate guy. Everybody loved him. And Braun Breaker obviously has not really had a bad performance in a promo or inside the ring ever since he's debuted in NXT. He has consistently knocked it out of the park. A guy like Grayson Waller, I didn't care about him as a babyface.
Say it right.
Grayson Waller. But the phenomenal Grayson Waller, by the way. I just didn't give two shits about this guy. But then he turned heel and he's been on fire. And I think I said it on Top Story last week. If Braun Breaker does not take that title from Ciampa, which means he's probably getting elevated to the main roster, don't be surprised if Grayson Waller is going to be the guy that takes that off of Ciampa down the line.
We have another big update here, even as we're live, about the situation with WWE and COVID-19. Once again, another tip of the cap to old Mike Johnson over at PWI Insider here, saying that some big names are not present for WWE in Detroit at the Little Caesars Arena. They include Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn, Michael Hayes, and Adam Pearce. John Laurinaitis and Ed Koski currently running tonight's tapings.
People power.
It's worth noting more than half of the 12 on-staff producers not present, possibly testing positive or under safety protocols for COVID-19, possibly exposed, waiting to see if they can, wait out possible, just a window to see if they do test positive. So a lot of big names there, a lot of older folks outside of Adam Pearce, a lot of older folks there. So you probably have people vaccinated. We've never heard of a vaccine mandate from WWE. And then we hear these different changes with pulling back on testing and stuff like that. So it's a very fluid situation, to say the least. We'll continue to follow all of it and aggregate the news from all the reliable sources for you at sportskita.com. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to Sportskita on YouTube with those notifications on. Please do that. We are over 24,000 subscribers. Thank you. 24,000 subs. We're so thankful for that. Thank you guys so much. We have content for you every single day of the week, almost 5 days a week. Top Story with us here in the late afternoon time frame, Monday nights after Monday Night Raw. Vince Russo, he has a fresh review up for you as well. The Bro Show now being added with DDP and Russo. And then on top of that, Bill Apter jumping around the channel, exclusive interviews, and so much more. Dutch Mantel with you Friday nights after SmackDown and Rampage. We'll be live after day one. So if you aren't doing it already, there's a lot of stuff that for you Facebook fans that we do over on YouTube that we don't do on Facebook. All right. The top fives, you can get those on our new channel called Wrestle Binge as well, if you want to do that. Thank you guys for checking all that stuff out. Jeremy, where can they follow you on the Twitter machine?
You can follow me at JB Huskers. I usually will live tweet. I might be live tweeting Raw. I am not sure yet. I might get my butt in the gym. I don't know yet. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do after the show here. So finally getting my butt in the gym, 40 years overdue. But yeah, follow me on Twitter.
Don't lose that beard. You can lose everything else, but don't lose that beard.
I might chop it off.
I don't believe you have a neck. I just believe you have a beard that envelops all around.
That is correct. I will never lose the beard. The length might get shortened drastically. We'll see. But the beard as a whole will never go away. Yes, that is a fact. That is definitely a fact of life. Yeah. Yeah, Lost in the Midcard is my podcast with Matt Black, who's also a fellow Sportskeeda writer. We are coming up on our 7-year anniversary of the show. We've done over 300 episodes. We've been off for a couple of months, but we are going to be back at you next week, next Thursday. We are going to record on the 5th. We'll talk about New Year's Evil. We'll talk about the big dynamite that's headed our way there. We'll talk about day one as well. And that'll be out to you a week from Thursday. So the first Thursday of the year, we will be back with Lost in the Midcard. Search any of your podcasting apps. Make sure you select the new feed so you get the new stuff. And also on YouTube, we got the video version there. So if you want to check out what we're all about. And then, like I said, we'll be back next week.
All right, hammer that like button before we sign off. Remember to do the most important thing. Share the link so you don't stink. All right? Tag your wrestling buddies. You want to share it? Put it on a wrestling group page. Put it on one of those, all right? One of those, there's one that I'm on called Smacking at Raw Wrestling, which sounds a lot more vulgar than it
sounds dirty.
Is. Sounds dirty, but go ahead and share the link so you don't stink. And remember, when watching wrestling, please enjoy wrestling.
Yeah!
Watch out! Watch